are going for a whole hour. Straight dog talk and the song. Jump on in and speculate. Show up on time, don't be weak and late. We are community, so don't hate. And learn to cooperate. Yeah, hit that like button and do your thing. 5 membership will get you in. So let's talk dogs and don't waste no time. Monday 7 p.m. Don't come doing the HATE. Otherwise Hollywood will give you the BYE. Here we go, kill the whistle. Oh yeah, we are going for a whole hour. Straight dog talk and a song. Jump on in and speculate. Show up on time, don't be weak and late. We are community, so don't hate. And learn to cooperate. Hit that like button and do your thing. 5 membership will get you in. So let's talk dogs and don't waste no time. Monday 7 p.m. Don't come doing the HATE. Otherwise Hollywood will give you the BYE.
The BYE. What is going on, guys? It is Monday Bully Live. And today we got a special guest, none other than Lee from American Sentinel K9s. We're going to be bringing him in here. Got a bunch of y'all already just jumping the gun. Adam Fields isn't 7 yet. Ronnie F jumping on there. None but love, man. Shay Tree, prayers to you and your family, Shay Tree. You already know. Nothing but love for you. Good to see you guys are here. Faithful fams, you got it. We got Dickie Foster in the house in Sarata. Good evening. 6 is the time here. Marco Grimaldo, just in time. Let's get it. Finally, one of the few times I'm able to watch a live. Adam Fields, Shay Tree. We got Drippy saying what's good. We got Freddy Strivia, like always. Thoroughbred Bull Terriers. Man, we got everybody up in here tonight, man. He thought I'd never see this collab, says Sydney Dykes. Well, somebody was talking about it a couple of weeks ago, and I told you guys I have no issues reaching out to anyone and bringing them on and having a conversation, man. Nothing but love for all of you guys. By the way, special shout out to my dude, right? To my dude, NWA Cane Corsos, Joe Church. Nothing but love for you, brother. Thank you for stopping by with us tonight. Without further ado, man, let me bring in my dude, Michael Higginson. What's up, Money Mike?
What's going on, fam?
Hey, man.
I'm excited to be here tonight.
Hey, man, we're going to be changing some gears tonight, man, because we're going to be talking some band dogs, some pit bull. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure that there's common denominators to breedings that could apply, regardless what breed it is, man. And so without further ado, we're going to be bringing our guy, Lee, at American Sentinel K9. What is up, brother? Thank you for coming by, man.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. You got a pretty large channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Lee, can you give my people watching right now a little background as to, you know, where you're located, how long you've been breeding? Give us a background on yourself.
Well, I had dogs ever since I was a little kid, you know, like a lot of people that have dogs today. I'm 55 years old, and when I was growing up, we moved a lot, and my dog was my best sidekick, you know. So when I was going to college, you know, I realized we all have our strengths and weaknesses, right?
Absolutely.
So my strength was always seeing details that people couldn't see, math and science. But as far as vocabulary or spelling and memorization, boy, that was not my area. So, you know, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I initially went into accounting because I was pretty good at numbers and whatnot, but then I realized that's just not what I want to do. So I was debating about what to do, and I asked myself some questions. What is really defines who I am, and what was I doing in my spare time? I was in the library reading about animals, studying dogs, studying behavior, studying reproduction, studying genetics. So I decided to get 2 degrees in animal sciences, and also certified in AI. We started breeding our dogs. I had dogs and started working dogs in the 1990s and studying a lot of stuff back in the 90s, and became familiar with the band dog, but I didn't start any breedings until the year 2000. So we've been breeding for 25 years now.
Woo, 25 years, man. Time flies, man. Let me ask you this, Lee. You've definitely been doing this a lot longer than myself. What would you say is the number one thing a breeder must have? Is it the ability to know how to put a breeding or a mating together? Is it the ability to pick the right pup? Or is there something else to it?
I think the most important thing is to be able to see traits. And to do that, you need to understand animal behavior and physiology. There's a lot of people that I have seen that have looked at an animal and they thought it was a great animal in one way, or people miss the details. They might miss structural problems. If you can't see a dog's gait and notice the fluidity, how fluid their gait is.
Fluidity, right.
Yep. And you see that joint ticking or something like that, that could be a sign of a joint problem. A lot of people can't see that kind of stuff. Confidence is important for us because we breed working animals. And a lot of times I'll see a dog that'll kind of look to the side, and that's the beginning of looking for the back door. A lot of people don't see the eyes move, little things. Where the animal's positioning its feet will tell you if the dog is thinking about moving forward or if the dog's thinking about moving backwards. A lot of people don't see that kind of stuff. They only see the forest. That you can't see the forest because of the trees, so to speak. And a lot of people get blocked and they can't see past what is the obvious. So I think it's very important to be able to see the details. And I'm not so sure that that's something that you can train. I was talking to a guy earlier today that owns a pizza shop, and he was talking about, some people, he never has to teach them about how to put the ingredients on the pizza. They're very careful and they spread the ingredients out. Other people just put it all on, but maybe all the peppers are on one side. And he's like, well, every bite has to be consistent, man. And it's like some people have to be coached about the details, but other people just have it. I think that's really like the most important thing. You can learn details, but if it doesn't come naturally, it can be a handicap.
Let me just real quick, Dickie Foster, number 11, man, appreciate you, man. You know what I like about talking with dogmen and people that have more than just the basics is the ability to be able to extrapolate to something else. In other words, that comparison you just made about making a pizza and putting all the peppers on one side or spreading it all the way around, I think you hit the nail right on the head. That's how you get dog balance. I've always said that one of the most important things as a breeder is your ability to be objective, especially with what you got going on in your yard. I think if you're not able to pick up a glitch in one of your dogs, the only person you're making a disservice to is to yourself in your yard, because then you're not going to know what it is you need to do to fix it. I've always said you got to know without a doubt what it is that is wrong with the dog, because there's not too many dogs walking around that are perfect, and what it is that you need in order to be able to complement it. Would you agree with something like that?
100%. And you talked about being objective to yourself, but you can't even do that if you can't see it. So that's why I went to, initially I want to say honesty is the most important thing. Honesty to yourself, honesty to your customers. But the truth is you can't even be honest unless you first see it. You have to have the ability to see the truth. And then when you can see the truth, then you have to accept the truth. And then you have to be willing to tell the truth, not only to your clients but to yourself, and be honest. So I 100% agree with what you said.
Excellent.
Well, what do you think about this? So to add to that, what both y'all are saying, I agree with all of that. I think one of the reasons people struggle with being objective is because of the unique relationship between people and dogs. So it's like once I start bonding with my dog, it's easy if you're not careful. If you allow it to happen, it's hard to be objective for a lot of people. I notice. I don't struggle with being objective, but I can see where it's like your kids, Yeah. So people get to where they turn a blind eye to what everybody else sees to be obvious because it's their dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they don't know they need to be objective. It's that they think their kids are beautiful, that type of thing, and I think it gets in the way of people's objectivity.
I think that's a good point. I can tell you as a nurse, whenever, one of the main things about nurses is your ability to assess what's there. It doesn't mean whether it's your kid or not. You got to assess what's there. You take the temp says 98.4. You don't put 98.9. You don't put 98.1. You put 98.4 because that's what's there. That's the assessment you must make. One of the things I learned coming into breeding was I got to take off my loving pet owner hat off, and I got to put my breeder hat on. Now, you guys have seen that I have dogs in my yard for a long period of time, but the time came, and I feel that this holds true for all dogs. There's an expiration date for all dogs to be able to apport in your program. Okay, you can't have a female and she's 6 years old and she's still cranking out pups. I mean, did you not, by the time she was 4, or 3, were you not able to breed and actually outdo her or improve whatever it is that you were looking for? So the point that I'm trying to get across is your ability to assess what's really there and what it is that you need to do to improve on it is quintessential. If you look at all your dogs as pets, don't get me wrong, man, I love all of my dogs. And the dogs that I have dogs that I've retired from my program that will not breed, yet they will be here to the day they die. But my ability to identify that they took me as far as they could, as far as my breeding program, I feel is key. How does that work the same way for your line, Lee? I know you work with a working line, so it may be somewhat different.
No, I agree again with that. We've had a lot of people ask us about, do we collect semen off a lot of our males? And my opinion is we very seldom have. I've only got semen collected in 25 years off of 2 males. And one of them was because we sold him and I wanted to be able to breed him. So we kept some semen from him. So it wasn't even because we were trying to preserve him for the future. It's so much as we had a client, a police officer in Washington, D.C. that wanted that dog for his home protection dog, and he made us a good offer, so we let it go and had some semen collected. The only other time that we had one collected was a dog that was really, really an apex individual, and we bought him at 5 years of age. So we went ahead and had him collected because I felt like I was kind of limited on my time because he was 5 years old when we acquired him. And we actually had another reason why we had him collected is we had somebody wanted to do a AI with him that lived in California and I'm in Mississippi. So that kind of precipitated that by taking him in. I was like, you know what? He's there. Let's go ahead and have him collected. And we left him there for, enough time to get enough collections off of him. But we've had a lot of people ask us, why don't you get Scratch collected? Why don't you get Justice collected? Why don't you get some of these great producers that I have collected? And my opinion on that was, if he's a great dog, then I'm going to breed him plenty of times. If I'm going to breed him plenty of times and he doesn't reproduce himself, then I don't want him collected. And if he does reproduce himself, then I'll use the progeny and refine as I go. There's something in genetics called genetic drift. And genetic drift is when you change the genes in a population over time through selective breeding. And that allows you to refine the population by reducing the undesired traits and increasing the desired traits. So why would I continue to go back to an older dog when I can use the progeny that have less of the undesired and I have more of the desired? And so that's why I don't get to do a lot of frozen semen.
It's funny you say that, Lee. I found myself actually going through the same thing. I can tell you in the American Bully world. Now, the American Bully is a breed unto itself, obviously. Sure. We don't have working dogs. Our breed is mainly for companion. You do know that, unfortunately, our breed has also been looked at as accessories. Like the bigger, badder dog you got, it means, it's kind of like wearing the best glasses or a high-end purse, if you will. What I noticed back in the mid 2010s to late 2010s is all of a sudden people were storing sperm on their dogs and sperm on their dogs. And so here I am thinking, I'm like, dude, right now, the average coefficient of inbreeding for our breed is anywhere between 12 and 16. I'm talking about mid 2010s to late 2010s. Like, to me, it just makes no sense to go ahead and store the sperm of a dog where in about 5 to 10 years, there's going to be a shift if you look at the breed entirely. And then in 5 years, that dog's really not going to be even worth it. And it turns out, at least to me, that I was right, because I feel that the last 5 years, the American Bully has brought on a lot more breed type than set dogs in the mid 2010s whose sperm they were collecting to use in the future. And now I'm looking at it, I'm like, it makes absolutely no sense. So you're hitting it right on the head, man.
Are you saying you wouldn't even want to go back to breed those dogs if you could?
I would not. And the reason I would not is I much rather breed to those dogs' grandkids and great grandkids rather than go and breed back to him originally. You got to realize that, well, also let me give you a little background. I don't know if you know this, but we have different classes in the American Bully. The American Bully I was breeding in the mid 2010s and late 2010s was nothing other than the American Bully XL, which has, by the way, a lot of Mastiff influence. But nonetheless, when you look at these dogs back then, you realize, man, this is like a Mastiff crossed with a Bully. There's still volatility. It hasn't gelled yet. So why would you want to keep that? Whereas you fast forward to now, and now you can see a lot more breed type, because now you have a lot more breedings that happen with dogs with breed type since that dog was at the climax of his popularity, being bred and whatnot.
So no, more consistent is what you're saying. It's more consistent.
Well, it is that. It is that. And part of the reason to go along with what he's saying is our dog. Like, there is no perfect bully yet. We're still building our breed, and even though it's been around for 30 years now, we haven't decided what the final product is altogether. And so as they continue to breed towards the breed standard, nothing's certain yet. So if you keep a dog sperm from 10 years ago, well, we're still evolving. And as we get closer in evolution to what the finished product is, 10-year-old dogs are not really relevant.
Correct. Right.
So if we had issues with flaws and things starting to be prevalent, health traits, things like if our blood took a turn for the worst, we could backtrack like that to clean it up, I guess. But we're not having that problem.
Right. Well, on that note, when you breed to something, sometimes you get what it is, and sometimes you get what it comes from. So if you get a throwback, I'll call it, you're actually throwing back to those dogs that aren't being used. But if you use the dog that's not being used, it would throw back to the original breeds that were founded from, which is even worse, you know. So because you don't want to have Mastiff traits show up in your dogs, I'm sure.
No, absolutely not. It is unfortunate. Our breed, along with many others, I don't want to just point the finger at our breed, but there's a lot of paper hanging. Hanging that went on. And so, if you know what to look at, you just look at the feet, the extended limbs, the positioning of the step of the back legs. You can just take right away whether this dog, also the droopy face, that sort of thing. You have a lot of things that are giving you clues as to how mastiff, if you will, a dog is showing. You really don't know what's under the hood until, you actually do a DNA test. And even then, sometimes they'll still come in as 100% bully. And that's got more to do with the database that Embark has and the markers they go off of to determine what a bully is or is not.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Y'all see, can I ask a quick question? I know that you asked me to come in here, but I heard one of your podcasts, and it sounds like you do quite a bit of Embark testing. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we have in reality here. Let me bring it up. We Embark test. I have over 72 dogs that we've Embark tested. Let me see if I can bring it up and show you.
We're both big believers in genetic testing. That's something we both stand on.
Yes,
both feet for sure.
Yeah, that's something I need to reach out and learn a little bit more about. I do a lot of the genetics here myself because my background in genetics, but some of the testing stuff that's available now is pretty cool.
It really is, man, and this is definitely the place for that. Either one of us can help you with any of that at all. It's really cool, man. We're actually diving into some really cool stuff in recent times here.
Yeah, here's so you can see this is a lot of what we started out with, and then obviously as we go forward, we produce pups. You know, we definitely embark every single puppy and every single dog that is in our yard. We've done only 72, but hopefully in a year or two, you know, we could get that number up to, you know, somewhere around 150, 200 dogs. And we live and we die by it, man. Even though I don't know everything there is to know about genetics, nobody does. I'm a firm believer that going forward, that you're going to have to learn it whether you like it or not, because it's the future of breeding. I understand phenotypical breeding has been where all breeders have come from since the dawn of time, but technology is making it feasible, not just economically, but also time-wise. You could swab your dog and literally within 6 weeks, you have full results as to what's going on under the hood. On everything? No, I wouldn't say on everything. We're not there yet. Will we be there? I would say so. I can tell you, I have been in contact already with 3 different companies that do customizable genetic testing. So I've spoken in the past and I've said, okay, the higher the COI, right? The coefficient of inbreeding means more homozygotic pairs, which means you're more than likely to have a prepotent dog that's going to push through if you're going into a female that has a substantially lower COI. Okay. That's not 100% accurate. And that's the thing. That's the thing about genetics.
Yeah, there is a flaw in that. Prepotency is not just about homozygosity; it's also about dominance. So if you're homozygous on a bunch of recessive traits, and then you're breeding to a dog that's got dominant traits, none of that homozygosity is going to show up.
That is correct. And to make it even simpler, in simpler terms for people following me, Merle is a dominant trait. So you could have a female that has a 1% COI, and you got a male that's got a 36% COI. Obviously, he's got a higher percentage of homozygosity than that female does. However, because that dominant gene she's carrying, guess what? Half of the litter going into the breeding should come out as Merle, right? That's the other side of the coin of it. No, I totally get it. The thing is, you can't just drop the bomb and explain homozygosity, heterozygosity. Oh, by the way, dominant genes, which we know are a very tiny portion, is a trump card. Basically, that's what I refer to it. It's a trump card over at anything. But no, it is true. If you have a female with lower COI and you have a male with higher COI, then the next thing you need to look at is who's got more dominant traits. And then that's going to determine basically who's going to be pushing what as far as the dominant traits is concerned.
Well, it's dominant. It's dominant over everything except recessive traits together, right?
It's a trump card, bro. It sucks because it's a trump card. He's absolutely right. So think about it. Homozygosity means you got 2 pairs that are the same. So if we were playing poker and you had 4 cards and you had all 4s, that's great that you got a straight. It sucks that it's a low number and it could be trumped by just about anything. You see where I'm getting at? So homozygosity means you have a lot of straights. Now you got to look even further under the hood to see, are you homozygotic exclusively on recessive traits, or are you actually carrying some dominant traits that are going to trump everything else too? Because if you don't, the other dog may, and it might just throw everything you're doing off. That's
an outcross. And if it's an outcross, remember the pups are not going to be that homozygosity is going to be lost.
Correct.
Right when you outcross. So even though that parent that's homozygous may be consistent, when you're doing an outcross, if that outcross is not carrying those same alleles, then boom, you no longer have homozygosity. You no longer have coefficient of inbreeding, and it's lost. So now you're going to resort to dominance. And then also something else that comes into play, which this comes into play way more often than people think, is something called polygenics. And you can throw your Punnett squares out the window when you're doing polygenics. Absolutely.
Polygenetic chains, they could be as long as 2 or or even longer. And all a polygenetic chain is, to me, is the explanation of relationships. If you look at color breeding, for example, you're going to go first, to your B locus, see if it's capital B, lowercase b. Then you're going to go to the D locus for dilution. Then you're going to see what you got going on in the A, if it's getting trumped by what you got going on in the K. All color DNA is nothing. It is polygenetic because it's every gene is depending on something else that's going on later on from it. So
the same is true for size and temperament and so many other factors.
Yep. So we have a gentleman by the name of Red Ghost. You might know him, Lee. He says, Lee, can you speak on breeding for traits versus breeding for genetics? Seems like Raul is using DNA for breeding, or am I mistaken? No, you're not mistaken. I think eventually we are going to be headed in that direction fully. Go ahead, Lee. Go ahead and explain breeding on traits.
Well, there's breeding for traits is probably how I basically operate. Now, and the reason why I say that is because the majority of the traits that I'm personally selecting for are polygenic. And yes, I am Lee Robinson. The reason why I breed for traits for polygenics is because polygenics is modified through selective breeding over time. You're not going to just do a Punnett square or increase homozygosity for a polygenic trait because it's influenced by multiple loci. So a loci is a location in the genome. Do you mind can I share a screen to something? Is that possible?
You're muted. If not, you're muted, Raul.
I said, please go right ahead. It is possible, but do you have us on a phone or do you have us on a laptop?
On a laptop. I see a feature where I can share it.
Yeah. Go right ahead.
All right, let me go ahead and present share screen.
Real quick, shout out to my guy, Alex von Gonta House. Nothing but love, man. Love you, guy. Yeah, everybody knows Alex.
All right. Do you see my website right here?
I'm not seeing it. Yeah, you got to share it.
I clicked share tab.
You did?
Yep.
There you go.
You may have to approve it.
Yeah, I just did. I believe that's it.
All right. So if we go to the more tab, I'm going to scroll down to a members only section. Now I should be a member here because this is my own website. I still have to sign in. And this is going to take us to a genetics page that I have. Now this picture here is what's called a karyotype. It's a picture of all the chromosomes that a dog has, and there's 39 pairs in a dog. For a human, there's 23 pairs. Yes. And so since when you're dealing with a monogenic trait, or when we're talking about things like homozygosity, homozygous means you have the same allele from both parents at a particular loci. Homozygosity means you have homozygous traits typically in many locations. So homozygosity is just basically a plural form of homozygous. Now, I just wanted to show you this. So a polygenic situation may be a trait is affected by something on chromosome 1, but it might also be affected by something on chromosome 10 or something on chromosome 16. And so now imagine, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Imagine that your light bulb, if you wanted to turn this light off, a lot of people think it's just a light switch. Well, that would be like monogenic, on and off. You just have two positions, big B, little b, which one's expressed. But in truth, most of the traits that I'm looking for are not just the on-off light switch. We could have a bad bulb. We could have a light switch. We could have the circuit breaker out. We could have the main breaker outside off, or maybe I didn't even pay my bill and they turned it off somewhere else. So that now we have 4 or 5 different things going on that are affecting the expression of a single trait. So it looks like it may be one loci, but it's not. Well, if it is one loci, you can fix that in 1 or 2 generations just with some selective breedings. But with polygenic traits, which really they're really complicated, it's hard to identify where is the source. So by breeding over traits, you don't necessarily have to identify the source. I'm going to do one more screen share to something else. Let's see.
It's ironically, it's so glad we're so glad to have you tonight. It's interesting to me that the stuff that you're talking about is stuff that we've also been talking about, and but you're saying it from a different perspective, and I'm really enjoying that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's my pleasure to be here. All right, let me reduce some of these screens so they're not in the way. When I have to share screen, I got to make sure I go to the right
Now
one.
let me see if let me get caught up here, make sure I'm understanding you where we're
Yep,
at.
absolutely.
So you have traits in certain places expressed by homozygosity or homo. What did you say? What's the word? Homo. The singular version of it.
Homozygous is when you're
Homozygous. So the
when you're
homozygous. Either
Mhm.
way, but you have if you're trying to bring through that trait in that chromosome, you have switches in other areas that can affect whether or not that trait is expressed.
correct.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
that's what we've been working on too. So
Yeah.
so I'm
good.
sure you've heard of. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you could give me a chance, I'd like to share the screen, Lee. This is me actually deep diving into hold on. Yeah, here we go. This is me actually deep diving into a certain pathway, which is the WN3A, WNT5A pathway. This has got to do this more has got to do with bone density. But if you notice, there's a color blue on chromosome 20.
Yeah.
There's a little speck of color blue on chromosome 14, and then there's another one on chromosome 9.
Yep.
So in essence, this is exactly what we've been talking about. This particular gene, in order for it to be expressed, you basically got to hit on all of these three spots, right? And then I purposefully went ahead and put one of my dog's embark DNA just to show how her DNA sample actually lines up with these markers. And as you can
this
see,
right here, Lee, is where this is what an embark chromosome map looks like that embark
Yeah.
provides.
Sure.
And the orange is the the homozygosity, and the gray is the heterozygosity.
is the heterozygosity. And my thing is, and obviously it took me quite a good deal just to put these little specks of color there. I know they don't look like much, but trust me, it was quite a bit of work. But my point is that essentially I could see us heading in this particular direction within the next 5 years, because literally right now, I've been working on muscle, by the way, and I know my fans and our members here are probably pissed off because it's taken me about 3 weeks. That I just showed you is just bone density. We haven't even gotten into muscle yet. Muscle is turning out to be a lot more complex than I first thought of it. But everything that you're saying is absolutely right. You could have a situation where one particular trait could be hit on 4 or 5 different chromosomes in certain loci within that chromosome, and all it takes is for you not to hit on one of them to shut the whole thing off.
That's right. Right. You have the black modifier for blue or brown, and then you get them both at the same time, and you get, some people call it tawny, some people call it champagne, some people call it Isabella, I guess. I'm not exactly sure about that. But the problem with breeding for that embark test type stuff, I don't know if you want to put that back up or whatever, or maybe you can put up this bell-shaped curve, either one of those. I don't know if you can share both those screens at the same time. That'd be perfect. Do you see the bell-shaped curve that I tried to share, or no?
Oh, no, my bad. Here you go.
All
there
right.
you go.
Can you drop your embark over here on the left side on those words? We don't need those words.
I can only do, I believe I can only do one at a time. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. I'll fill you in on what I'm saying. So, let me go to, can you see my mouse here?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So when you're selecting for traits, let's say we're going to look for running speed. Okay, I know that sounds crazy because some people might not say that's a trait, but it is. It's a trait that's expressed through a combination of multi-polygenics, because now you have endocrine system, you have respiratory system, circulatory system,
cardiovascular,
circular cardiovascular. You have muscle twitch fibers and skeleton. All of these things coming to play. So we're definitely dealing with polygenics here. So what happens is, okay, let's say you have a dog that wins a race. You're not going to breed the average. You're not going to breed the slow. You're going to look for these dogs that are way up here that are really fast. And so
Correct.
you're going to try to get the best one. But let's say you find one that's just a winner of a race, and then you breed them back to another quote unquote winner of a race. What you're going to end up producing is not going to just be right here. You're going to get a new bell-shaped curve that's right here. I'm trying to move my mouse slow enough that it's not jumping. Is it moving fluid or is it jumping?
Yeah, it's fluid.
No, it's moving fluid.
All right, so you're going to get a new population that you built that has been shifted to the right, shifted to a higher level. And
Yes.
you do this, but don't think you're going to go from like 25 miles an hour to 50 miles an hour. It doesn't work that way, right? It's really slow. It's going to go from like 25 to 26, and then 26 to 27. And then you're going to breed the best of those, build a whole new population of a giant population, and you're going to select the best, and you're going to go from, eventually you're going to get 30, 35, 40, 45. And then you're up to like the what a greyhound can run, and you're really producing some super great speed.
So as you combine those polygenetic chains that match up, by the best of the best, you're shifting that bell forward.
Right. And now let me get rid of that. Put your thing up here, and I want to mention the concern that I have with things like embark. Remember, now eventually this stuff is going to work. I don't think it's going to be the trend in 5 years, but maybe, because technology is really growing fast right now, especially with AI intelligence and whatnot. This stuff here only works when we can identify the gene to the trait that is responsible for producing the phenotype.
Yes.
And if you don't know what gene is producing the phenotype, then this stuff doesn't work.
Well, it's good. I'm glad you said that.
That's the part, if you don't mind me jumping in, that's the part that becomes most difficult. I can tell you right now, I've been using AI to deep dive in order to match up these traits. And the problem with AI is, guys, AI right now is lying to you half the time. I don't think it's doing it on purpose, but it's lying to you. And so it forces me to go to Cornell University, UC Davis, University of Wisconsin. I mean, I got like 7 different universities I'm going through in order to verify that I'm actually hitting it exactly where it is that I got to hit it, to include ensemble. Have you ever heard of ensemble?
No, well, I've heard the word, but I don't know if I know what you're talking about.
Let me show you here real quick, and I'll share my screen. You go into ensemble, and this is what you're looking at. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, for example, whenever I'm looking up a particular pathway, right? In this case, or a gene, SMG1, for example, this is primarily on, this is letting me know, this is primarily on chromosome 6, and it's showing me exactly right here's where it's supposed to be. And then I could always mark the region, and it's normally right there. But this is only the beginning of the deep dive, because you got to realize that genetically, I'm going off of the closest dog breed that has bulldog in it to our breed, right? Because a corgi, for example, will have a different location for this particular gene than, say, a boxer will, right? Yeah. And not just that, once I'm able to identify that, then is when the work really gets going, because then I got to go find either articles or research or whatever, where I can at least find 5 or 6 other places that are saying, yes, we agree. This is where you find that. So you're absolutely right. Right now, that is the hard part into this whole thing right now.
And that what you're looking at right there, that he's been working on with the different colored places on the embark map is actually what you're referring to. It's just in the beginning. So eventually, as he continues that research that he's been doing, that we've been working on, he will have each chromosome sweet spot, if you will, the window of success, and the switches that turn these traits on and off, and which ones have to all go together to get it to come to fruition. Once all that is mapped out, and we know which chromosomes affect which traits and where they have to be with homozygosity and all that, then this is a useful tool. Right now,
Right. Baby steps.
Well, yeah, when we first started talking about this, it's funny because that's exactly what you said, Lee, is exactly what I said. It's like, man, I wish we could identify which ones were where, instead of just knowing that they're all here, but where are they at in the chromosomes, and how do we use them to our advantage? And that's when we started down this journey, and Raul has been unlocking this piece at a time, cross-referencing like crazy to make sure, as we can be sure, that we have these switches and markers in the right place. And eventually we'll be able to map out all the muscle locations and bone locations, which we already have the bone, and then all the different health variants and things that affect our breed, so that you could lay what he has there, that
Overlay
with all the switches, overlay it on top of like that with the DNA chromosomal embark test of any dog, and say, yeah, if we pair the male and the female together here, it's not going to give the homozygosity in the sweet spot that we needed. So this is a wasted breeding if we're breeding for this certain attribute.
There you go. And I wanted to address that last part, if we're breeding for this certain attribute, because breeding for genetics and breeding for traits, they're both kind of incomplete in philosophy, because until we get to gene manipulation, you don't breed for a single trait. You don't breed for a single gene. You breed to a dog, which means you might be trying to identify a certain trait, but what comes with that trait that you might not like? Everything else that's in that dog. And so I don't, if I could just create the perfect dog, I'd walk away around and say, okay, I want the size of this dog, the muscle of this dog, the stamina of this dog, the color of this dog, the attitude of that dog. But it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And in fact, about 10 years ago or so, Netflix did a show called Unnatural Selection with David Ishii, and I am in that episode a little bit, but I didn't sign the waiver, so they can't really show my face and stuff. And the reason why I didn't sign that waiver is because they turned out to be very honorable. But sometimes TV shows like drama, and since I was like, man, I'm a school teacher, and there was a little conversation about unnatural selection and God, and I'm like, okay, they're going to make me look like some religious wacko and get me fired from teaching. So I was like, I decided not to sign it. But in that show, I remember David Ishii and do y'all know who David Ishii is?
Yeah. I've seen that video that you're talking about. Coincidentally.
Yeah, and he thought that this technology was going to be here. This was like 10 years ago now. He said, I think this technology will be here where we can change genes and do the embark type stuff and produce the dogs that we want in like 5 years. I said, back then, I was like 45 years old. And I said, well, if I wait, and they asked me my thoughts, and I said, I think it'll be here about the time I die in my 80s or 90s. And the reason why I said that is because you don't just have to identify it, which is hard. Then you have to identify it for polygenics, which is hard. Then you're also still breeding to the dog until you can get to gene manipulation and swapping those genes out. So you don't have to breed to the whole dog. You can just identify the traits that you want. And all of these things are going to come into play before we can breed to embark, because you might find that perfect embark, but you're only looking at the traits that you desired, right? And you're going to desire the one that you want to improve, but you might have something else that's already great. But when you breed to that dog that has the trait that you want to improve, it's going to bring in something that might mess up what you already have. That's awesome.
But in reality, embark is not, we're not using, I see what you're saying, but in reality, at least where we're at right now, where I find that you can use embark most effectively is going to be, especially when you're picking pups. There are traits that are not going to show. There are traits that are not going to show until the puppy is maybe 6 months down the line, 8 months, whatever the case may be.
Sure.
And so you could stack the odds in your favor if you're seeing, okay, I'm seeing what I want on chromosome 37, 13, and 9. Just an example. And I'm
Sure.
seeing it on this pup, but not on this one. If it comes down to having to pick, that's where I feel the Embark tool actually kicks in. Here's something else I want to throw at you that's a little crazy. So this past week, I've been reaching out to individual veterinarians. They're actually veterinarians that are specialized in genealogy, and I've been reaching out to them. And I reached out in this. I'm going to look through my tabs here, and if I see it, I'll bring it up. If not, you're just going to have to believe me. I found this one company that's already altering genes on sheep, on cattle, on pigs. And I reached out to them about, canines, how long is it going to be? What, all that good stuff. They had somebody call me like 2 days later, and they're like, look, we're not there with canines just yet. But we feel that within the next 2 or 3 years, we may be. And I just asked for the sake of asking, like, what's the pricing? Say you did have it. What would be the pricing like right now for pigs and cows? Like, how much do you guys charge to manipulate, gene expressions and whatnot? They said $3,500. So to me, I know we're not there, but think about it. To me, the way the speed in which technology is moving, and just $3,500 to be able to manipulate. Like, to me, it tells me that within the next 5 years, we should be a lot further along than we're at right now. Like I said, right now,
very unlikely to be where we're at just a short time ago, but things have grown exponentially, almost immeasurably. Like, as soon as you say what the current technology is out loud, it's already outdated.
Yeah.
That's how quick it's moving. And
Right.
now that it's gotten so far, it's like firing off like nothing we've ever experienced in human history that we know of.
It is going at a crazy rate. Lee, now that I got you here, I want to ask you this, man. As far as your program, I know you deal with working dogs and you've created your own line and whatnot. How much emphasis do you put on nutrition? Like, how important is nutrition to your program? And talk to me as to what you're feeding your dogs right now.
Sure. Before I do that, I want to say something before I forget it. And the older you get, you'll find out if you.
I'm already there. So I got it. I got you.
If you don't say something, you'll forget it. Raul,
I'm right behind y'all.
a question that you need to, if you didn't get the answer already, you may have already asked them. That company that you asked them about the gene manipulation.
Yes.
I'm curious if they did that in the egg, the sperm, the zygote, the embryo, the fetus. The reason why I ask is because if they did it in this egg or a sperm, then that will be a permanent change to the gene pool's future, and you won't have to pay for it again. If they did it in a zygote, or if they did it in an embryo, or if they did it in a
more
fetus,
in developmental, got you.
Yeah, then later in the develop, then it won't affect the gametes that individual produces. So check in on that and make sure that it's
excellent point.
One and done.
Glad to have you on for that, man. Go ahead.
All right, and then your question was about nutrition. Well, we do have a segment on our website about nutrition. We've used a ton of different dog foods. I really do believe raw is the way to go. Raw food is the way to go if you could do it right. The problem with raw dog food is people don't do it right. They don't balance their nutrition. There is a. Do you care if I put a plug in for a company? I know that he's not paid and whatnot.
Go for it, man.
All right. There's a company called the Foundation Raw. His website is ifeedraw.com.
I've seen his stuff.
And he seems like a really nice guy to me. I got along with him great. You can type in, when you check out on his website, you can type in BANDOG 10, and that'll give you 10% off on your purchase. I don't get any kickback out of that at all. It's just something that he shared with me, and he's treated me right, and he asked me to do a review on his food. He sent us 120 pounds of raw meat. We fed it. It was 60 pounds of one diet, 60 pounds of another. One diet worked really well for us. The other diet, one day, We did have the 2 dogs that we fed both got sick the same day. It was a formula that had tripe. I told him I didn't like the tripe formula because I'd never liked tripe, and to me, there's a problem with tripe.
Okay.
The problem with tripe is whatever that animal ate before slaughter did not have time to show up if it was a problem for that animal. It just ate it. So since it just
Okay.
ate it, what if there was a toxin in there? My concern that since that animal went to the slaughterhouse, that toxin might not have shown up. Or we go out to eat and we get food poisoning from a restaurant, we don't feel good, right? But
Right.
if we went to the slaughterhouse, nobody would even know that we ate something that was bad for us. So I don't like to feed tripe. Now I'm
Okay.
an anomaly. A lot of people in the dog world love feeding tripe. So I told him that. I said, but I do like the organ meat. So he came up with another formula that does have organ meat but does not have tripe. I think that is the ideal food or one of the ideal foods. The particular blend that he has is called the Heritage Blend. It has organ meat but no tripe.
Okay.
Now, am I feeding that to all my dogs? No, because I have 30 dogs and it would break the bank. To feed raw to 30 animals it would break the bank. So we feed that from time to time. We feed hamburger meat from time to time. I feed eggs from time to time. Um, it is I like to feed the shell when I feed an egg.
I do.
So, and because of that, I boil my eggs. And people might say, but why do you boil your eggs? Well, they're coming out of the cloaca of the chicken and they're going to have feces on it. And yes, they're washed and all that stuff, but it's still a raw egg, right? So the inside may be clean on an egg, and I think the inside is fine. If you want to crack your egg and put it over the dog food, that's fine. I like to feed them raw. I just boil them, and I don't worry about it. Now that's the only cooked food that I feed that has calcium in it. I do not give any cooked bones. The only thing that would be cooked that has calcium in it would be an eggshell, and that's
Okay.
just because it's so thin. And I can crack it up, right? I can put it in a bowl, bust it up in little pieces,
Powder it up. Yeah.
yeah, and just bust it up in pieces that I don't have to worry about chips cutting the digestive system. I do not feed any raw bones. I have fed raw chicken. I probably fed. Now, I don't feed much raw chicken anymore. I think it's fine. I have no concerns with it. But for the first 10 years, I probably fed 2,000 pounds of chicken a year, or at least 1,000 pounds
Sure.
of chicken a year. So I fed 10 or 20,000 pounds of chicken over the years. Um, I've fed a lot of hamburger meat. I think hamburger meat's ideal, but obviously it costs more than chicken. Um, and
Have
then
you
we
ever
feed it.
seen? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Have you ever seen?
No, go ahead.
Have you ever seen a change of behavior based on what you're feeding? Say, for example, kibble versus raw.
Yes and no. So we feed a lot of kibble also, right?
Okay.
And I can say that if you ever have a sick individual, I think that hamburger meat and goat milk and raw whole fish, like if you can catch them out of a pond. I'm talking about fish with scales, not catfish, not
Right.
smooth skin fish, but like brim or something like that. I have a pond on my property. I found that to be a big improvement in recovery of health. But as far as their temperament goes, I don't think that raw food makes the dog more aggressive when it's not eating, but they like it more. So they're going to fight more while they are eating. And here's the association: when an animal fights, they become more prone to fight when they're not eating. So a lot of people think feeding
Mm,
them raw meat makes them aggressive to other animals.
no.
No, it doesn't. Feeding raw meat makes them more likely to fight. More like once they've been into a fight, they're more likely to fight. But if you feed them separately and they eat raw, they can't fight. And then after you get done feeding and you put them back together, they're fine because they never had a fight.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. I know even with certain treats, particularly like a pig ear,
Oh yeah.
I cannot just throw a pig ear in the floor and let whoever gets it get it, because
Right.
I've never done it, but the very first time I introduced pig ear to my dogs, I seen it coming a mile away. So when I gave them all one of them ate one up quicker than the other, and
Mm,
it turned, and I could see it was like, oh, I'm taking that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And
that's
so I was
mine.
like, whoa, 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 we're all going in our kennels and eating pig ears now. Like, I never let it escalate, but I can see where like this is something that I enjoy enough where I will fight behind it. I can see that look. And the other thing I wanted to add to when you were talking about Raw, and you kind of tiptoed around it, or tiptoed over it, but it's the responsibility of the complications of it. It's I don't trust me personally. I'd be really reluctant to order Raw. I'd be scared. I know some people are doing it and getting away with it and doing a great job. And that guy that you talked about, I've actually looked at his product. Great stuff. I love my dogs. I'm very particular. I'd rather get it fresh and handle it myself, grind it myself, deal with my nutrition and my portions myself, because I've heard too many horror stories where people start like marking off like what killed my dog, like what could it have been, and they start chipping away at reverse engineering what happened, and Raw seems to be something they can't rule out. And so that's scary to me. You have to worm your dogs more often and things like that. So my advice to anybody, Raul's got some great videos on barf diet, on raw diet stuff.
There you go.
I recommend that somebody watch it and actually educate yourself. You start feeding your dogs raw, you're going to mess them up in a bunch of ways. It actually takes a little education there. And I think that's the scariest part. I worry that people won't do their research and won't take on the responsibility as they should. And it can be very dangerous to the dog's digestion, to their stomachs. They could have all kind of explosive diarrhea. They could even get infections and bacterias and things like that. There's just a lot of elements to factor in there, and it can be done right. And when it's done right, it is the best thing you can give a dog if you can afford it. But it can also very easily be the most dangerous as well.
That's right.
Let me jump in here real quick, man. Lee, this is a show, right? This is a show. We got people watching us. People like drama. Now, I don't like to make up drama. I like real drama. So, Lee, I know you deal with working dogs. You've been dealing with band dogs. Talk to me about a situation that got out of hand. Give me the inside scoop. Maybe we could all learn from it.
What do you mean? Like with people or with dogs or what?
Dog fight or a dog attack or dog anything. I mean,
okay. Well, here's a tip on how to break up a dog fight. So we were moving. Normally my males and my females get along with each other just fine, right? So it's not typically a concern to have a. Am I still here? Yeah.
Yeah, you're here.
Okay, it did a funny thing on the screen. All right, so normally my males and my females get along just fine. But we had one female that she was kind of a hair trigger of a dog, and I didn't really know it because it was the first time that she was going to be around another dog. And I was just going to swap a couple of dogs into a different kennel. So I alternate male, female, male, female, male, female. And so I open up in my kennels, they can't get to the dog next to them because I have a solid barrier in my kennels. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
Is there a reason for that? Let me just ask.
So they can't bite each other on the face.
Oh, okay.
Yep. They can stand up and see each other, and technically, I guess if the ideal situation, if the timing was right, like if one jumped, they could maybe nip each other, but it doesn't happen because they're standing up and so they're moving, so they don't really line up perfectly when they're jumping in the air. But because the barrier goes up like 4 feet 6 inches, and obviously the dogs are able to go above 4 feet 6 inches, but the kennels go up 6 feet 4 inches, and then they have a roof, so they can't get to each other. But anyway, I open up a kennel and I'm putting one dog in and getting another dog out, and there's a little bit of altercation. And the way to separate a dog fight if you're by yourself is, first of all, don't overreact. Okay, it's very unlikely that another animal is going to terminate that animal really quickly. In this particular situation, the male did not expect to be hammered by a female. He likes girls, right? So she got a good hold on him, and it wasn't pretty. So I got her off of him to get his feet up. Now this was a female American Sentinel and a male pit bull, so he was much smaller, right? So I got her off picked her up, and that got his feet up, and then I let her down. Now when I let her down, the reason why I did that is because I'm not going to be able to stop him that quick by myself. What I do then is I go get a leash, come back, tie the leash onto a fence, take the clip and clip it onto the fence. Then take the handle of the leash and run the leash through the handle to make a noose.
Exactly.
All right. Slip that over one of the dogs, and typically I would slip that over the dog that's less likely to engage. Now, since the male doesn't want to fight a female, I slip that over the male, because if I can break the female off, he doesn't want to fight a female. He wants to have pleasures with the female.
Exactly.
So I slip it on the male, and then I grab her and use the break stick, or get them off, turn them where they can't engage. If the male, once I get that off, my point is you work on the dominant dog and you tie up the less dominant dog. And since the male didn't want to fight a female in this particular case, he was smaller and he wanted to make love, not war. So that's how you tie up the one that's not as aggressive. You handle the one that is aggressive.
I've found in those extreme situations that nothing works better than a little electricity, because it is a trump card, and they hear that and they know that they don't want any problems with that, and so whatever pride is in the way and emotions and hormones and all that, it trumps all that. When they hear that fire, they want no part of that, and they'll break away, even if they're really upset with each other.
Yeah, I don't know if that'd work on a game dog though. It might. It might.
I don't know. I don't know either. I can tell you. You
hit one with a taser. It'll change their whole way of thinking.
I don't have a taser. I just have e-collars.
Well, it's essentially the same thing in that you crack that taser in the air and they hear that crack, and it's almost as if though they had an e-collar on. Everybody goes into best behavior mode.
Right, but I'm saying that the e-collar is not it doesn't make the crack, and it also is not as hot.
Oh, no.
It's a cattle prod too, and they're not so hot, but it's enough to where they don't want it.
Yeah. Somebody's asking here, Michael Higgins what zap hold on, let me bring in Hollywood. Go ahead, Hollywood.
This is the stick we're talking about. It's not as powerful as like a taser that you would hit somebody in self-defense. It's not like that at all, but I haven't had to use it once, ever. I just do this. Oh, look, they're looking now. Oh shit.
Yeah.
That's it. Look, I got them moving. They're walking. That face was running off.
How would they? Okay, I'll stay out of
the thing is,
no. Listen. I've never said I'm a trainer, man. I've never said I'm a trainer.
The reason why, what I was going to say is, to me, if a dog is startled by that, but he's never been hit by it, that would probably be a nervous dog.
No. All dogs
they've been hit by
at some point, just to let them know
at some point. Yes, because they've gotten an altercation and I've hit them with it before. That's how they know when they hear that. It's it. Nope, I don't want.
I'll tell you what else too, Lee. Yeah. Let's say you got 10 dogs in view of each other, right? If one of them has ever been hit in front of the other ones, they're like they're watching. The peanut gallery's like, oh, what just happened to him? Like, hey, you don't have to hit each dog. If one dog gets hit and the other dogs see it, they fully understand.
Yes, I would, Lee, once we get off of here, I will offer you a taser. I will ship it to you, and then I'll bring you back in a month, and you tell me how effective it worked or didn't work for you.
I'm going to tell you, I don't want it, and I'll tell you why I don't want it.
All right.
I have game dogs. I train protection dogs.
Okay.
Some ASPCA group will think I'm abusing animals. So you guys don't have to worry about that with the bullies, because you're not training guard dogs. Nobody's going to call you a compulsion-based trainer, because you're not training guard dogs, and you don't have game dogs. They're not. Last thing I want to do is give a group that wants to attack me for having game-bred dogs or protection dogs.
Enough
give
said.
them some ammo to come after me.
True.
Enough said.
Plus, you don't want to change their temperament, make them skittish or anything like that either.
No.
Now, let me ask you this, and I'm going to bring out a whole wall of – look, in fact, I'll jump in it first if you don't want to, Lee, because I know it's a testy subject. How do you feel about ear cropping and tail croppings?
All right. Have you ever seen that on my website before?
I have not.
All right. I'm going to go back to that screen share if you'd let me.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and put it up.
So I have pretty strong opinions on it. And the reason why I have strong opinions on it is because these people that are wanting to tell us how to manage our animals sometimes don't know what they're talking about. If we go over here to, let's see. I know I have, here it is, cropped ears and docked tails. All right. So I'll tell you, now I don't like an ear this tall, but this is just a picture that's fits for the image. An erect ear does several things. One, it prevents bacterial infections. Two, yeast, fungal, any type of ear infections are drastically reduced when you have a cropped ear. And that's because an erect ear is able to ventilate. It's able to breathe. If there's any water that gets in the ear, it can dry out.
Evaporate, yeah.
Don't think your floppy-eared dog has an umbrella. Okay, it's water is going to get in his ear. The problem is now it's trapped in there. All right, so having an erect ear is actually healthier for the animal. Another thing, all wild animals. You see this right here where it says all wild animals? Wild mammals, excuse me. All wild mammals have erect ears.
Yes.
Some people say the elephant ear is floppy. No, it's not. When an elephant gets charged or aggressive, they can hold their ear out to the side and they can swing them back, and they can do it for two reasons. One, it makes them look bigger, and they also cool off their body. So even the elephant has an erect ear. It just doesn't stand up, but it does stand out to the side. It's not laying over the ear canal, blocking sound. So there's three benefits of an ear. You prevent infection. Well, two benefits. You prevent infection, and you also improve the hearing. If you don't think it improves hearing, remember, what were the first hearing aids? They were just simply a cone.
Yeah,
A satellite that directs sounds into the ear canal. Now, we're going to breed animals with floppy ears because of something that it used to be called neoteniism, which is, let me stop sharing that screen.
That's why old people do like this when they're trying to hear you.
Yeah, I'm not going to stop sharing it yet because we haven't talked about the tails. So, what did I say a minute ago before I looked at the screen?
You're talking about the reason that their ears are erect so they could hear better.
Oh, no, neoteniism. I was going to say the old word for this was neoteniism, but they've changed. You don't hear that word anymore. There's another word that describes when an adult carries or displays the trait that's normally seen in an offspring or a baby. So if you'll notice that puppies have floppy ears, and this is true for mammals, when all mammals, when even animals that have erect ears, when they're born, they have floppy ears. But what has happened through domestication is the wild mature state has been lost. With pigs that are born pink, they have floppy ears. Domesticated animals stay pink and they keep floppy ears. The wild counterparts, though, they're not necessarily all born pink, but they're pink when they're in their mother, earlier in the gestation period. And later on, they get their coloration. Well, what's happened through domestication is we've postponed maturity. And some of these traits that are seen in infants are now seen in adults. And this is a problem with domesticated animals. If you look it up, type in your computer sometime, domesticated animals showing infantile traits in adulthood or something along those lines, and you'll come across the word where this is a problem of domestication. Domesticated animals should have erect ears because they're seen in their wild counterparts, and we bred it out. We need to add it back. And so the cropped ear adds it back without us having to breed to an animal that has an erect ear but has traits that I don't want. So instead of breeding to a trait I don't want, I just crop the ear and give it back. Now, as far as the tail goes, a lot of people think the tail is totally essential for balance. We got to look at the application of the animal. Since the American Sentinel is a close quarters combat dog, we need to consider the application of this animal for self-defense. It's going to be in a house, right? Your protection dog is likely to be inside. People can read this on my website if they just go to that tab. But I'm going to go ahead and close this tab so we can talk. In wild, dogs do not live in hallways or enclosed environments. Even if they're in the woods or in the bushes, they're not a stick every 18 inches away. Well, think about this from a hallway. A hallway might be, 4 feet wide, and the dog is in the middle, but the tail, let's just say the tail's in the middle, 2 feet that way, 2 feet this way, it's hitting a wall. Well, you put it in a crate. The crate might be 30 inches wide or 24 inches wide. Well, when that dog gets excited, its tail goes dum, 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 dum. What happens to the tip of it?
Happy tail. I've had that several times, bro.
Yeah, and then you got blood flying across the house because the tip of the tail is busted off. It's like a whip.
Yeah.
You take your finger and go hit the wall. How long do you have to hit it before the tip of your finger is sore? And so a docked tail makes an animal more comfortable in the house. Now, I still want to be able to look at the animal and see what it's thinking, because the tail is also a communication. You can tell when they're happy. Don't think the tail wagging means friendly. It does not mean friendly.
Excitement.
It means happy or excited. And they could be happy that you came home and they're glad to see you.
Or excited they're about to get in a fight.
Yeah, or they're excited that they get to go kill a hog, So just remember, it means excited or happy. The other thing is injury. Probably 20 years ago, I saw a dog ran over in a driveway. And when it got ran over, obviously the driver's reaction was to stop. Well, when they stopped, the skin of the tail came off of the tail just like you took off a sock. Now the rest of the tail was there. It just lost the skin. It didn't break the tail. So this dog had raw meat out on the tail with the bone, and you could see the muscles in the bone. And the dog was screaming and hollering. Now, we're in Mississippi. An older guy, you know what an older guy is going to do in Mississippi when they see a dog hurt like that? Walk the dog over to a stump and take a hatchet and cut it off. That's just an old redneck man. Don't tell this farmer how to handle his business. It's his dog, his business. Cut the dog's tail out. What I saw happen was pretty enlightening. And the enlightening was, I thought that dog that was hollering and screaming was going to still be hollering and screaming. He cut it off. The dog was back to normal. That tells me that the docking only hurts when you actually make the cut. When the cut is done, the dog's back to normal. We've done a lot of dockings with puppies, and they only yelp that long. I mean, they don't even yelp. It's just like, and then you cut it and it's done. They're back to normal. It's kind of weird how that happens, but it's not a painful experience. And somebody might say, well, you said they yelp. Remember, that long. How long are they going to yelp when that skin's yanked off, or they get a broken tail in a car door? You close a house door, you close a car door, they're going to be yelping a lot longer. So I want a tail long enough that I can see what they're thinking and communicating, but not so long that the dog's going to be injured.
No, I totally get it. Actually, I think you've enlightened us. I never thought of not docking the tail could actually be dog abuse if you're putting them in a crate.
Yeah.
Think about it. Happy tail is an injury, whether you like it or not. The dog is bleeding. They really don't feel too much pain, but dog could get an infection through the tail. So many different things could actually go wrong from it.
And one more thing on that. I was listening to you and I forgot. See what I mean by getting older? You start forgetting what you're going to say. Close quarters combat. So the people say, well, it's going to lose its balance. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Trust me. We use our dogs for catching hogs. The dogs do not lose their balance. And I can prove this with a couple of cases. A lynx does not hunt like a cheetah. A cheetah runs across the field at high speed. It may play a utter balance type role at high speed. It's not playing a balance role as near as much, if at all, at low speed when you're changing direction and the tail is really not that much weight. The bobcat and the lynx are not speed hunters. They're ambush hunters. They have to jump and jump fast. And they're able to outperform a cheetah any day of the week because
Ooh.
they're arboreal hunters. They hunt on the ground, but they also
Tree.
hunt in trees. You're
Right.
going to tell me that an animal that jumps from one tree to another tree, limb to limb, has lost balance? Well, if that was the case, it would still have a
Yeah.
long tail. It's very efficient. The other proof of this is, I don't know if you've ever heard of Golden King's Champion Silver. You ever heard of that dog?
No.
All right. He's a guy that matched dogs over in like Czechoslovakia or Russia or someplace like that. And he had a dog named Golden King's Champion Silver. There has never been a dog that is more accomplished in the game dog venues than that dog. That dog is a 3-time winner. Actually, he's a 4-time winner. My bad. He's a 4-time winner, but he's the only dog in history to ever defeat 3 grand champions and a champion. That dog, to be a champion, you have to defeat 3 dogs. To be a grand champion, you have to defeat 5 dogs. Golden King's Champion Silver defeated 3 dogs that beat 5 dogs and 1 dog that beat 3 dogs. He's the only dog in history to do that. He had a tail. He had a tail about that long.
There you go. I mean, you know, to me, actually, in our breed, we don't do tail docking. We do ear cropping. I'm not going to sit here and you know, come up with a cockamamie story or anything like that. The reason I crop ears is straight up aesthetics.
Sure.
I'm not going to sit here and give you I'm going to tell you straight up, it's because of aesthetics. But at the end of the day, for me, what's important is the fact that I'm taking care of that dog, that dog's not going to end up in a shelter or be thrown out in the street once I'm no longer using the dog in my program.
Sure.
That's what's important to me. I think too many times in America, people don't realize, but you know, opinions are like body parts. Everybody has one. Sometimes they have more than one, right? And bottom line is, you want to sit here and wag the finger at people, yet you have this 1-year-old little girl and you take her to get her ears pierced. You don't put her under general anesthesia. Your little boy gets circumcised. I can tell you, I was there as a nurse. They're not putting anesthesia. I've seen rabbis actually come in and take off the foreskin without any anesthesia, right? And you know,
and they're human beings.
Right, these are human beings. So they keep saying, oh no, it's so painful to crop the ears and this and that. Like, look, I'm taking my dog down to my vet. I spent $150 just on the anesthesia. Now, mind you, they're giving the dog propofol, which I know a little bottle like this costs $100, and he's gouging my eyes out for $150 just to use a little bit of that $100 bottle. That's a story for a different day. Bottom line is, I want my dog to humanely for it to get its ears cropped, right? And it's for pure aesthetics. Yet we got people here circumcising kids, getting their ears pierced. Let's spay the dog. What makes you think that doesn't hurt as much as an ear cropping? I'm pretty sure it hurts a lot more. You see where I'm coming from? But then again, you're looking at it more from a working dog standpoint. I really appreciate the insight that you brought in, that the erect ear does allow the dog to hear better. Also, it allows moisture to evaporate. If you want to know one of the things that's going to cause more ear infections in your dogs than anything else is if you get moisture in the ear. It's got no way out. It's got no way out. This is one of the reasons why I tell people, whenever you're going to go in and clean inside of a dog's ear, like for example, I've used in the past vinegar, hydrogen peroxide, and then a little bit of alcohol. The alcohol's not there to do anything but to help evaporate whatever's in there, because moisture in the ear is one of the fastest ways that a dog is going to get an ear infection. Let me see.
I'll tell you why I took the health approach and the performance approach is because these animal rights activists that want to impede on our rights on how we manage our property do it with a bleeding heart. So
yes,
even though it's our right to do what we want with our animals, as long as we're following basic humane laws and I believe in animal welfare more than animal rights. We're supposed to handle our animals with their care in mind.
Yes.
These animal rights activists, they talk about spay your animals, neuter your animals, and you know what that does to the chances of bone cancer? They go way up. Your
Yes.
chances of hip dysplasia goes way up. So you can't tell me that these things that you believe
Right.
are the right things because you haven't even researched it.
Anything that alters the dog's hormones at all is going to cause long-term effects for sure.
Right.
Well,
So hit them back with facts that destroy their motive.
I have, Lee, I don't want to say I've been one of the few. It's funny you bring this up because I had a conversation with Alex von Gontahaus when he came on. And we were talking about how these groups are attacking breeders in general. Now, don't get me wrong, man. I know there's breeders out here that are unethical, but
there's the animal rights activists right there.
There you go. But my point is, this animal rights activism within itself is one big industry, okay? And they like to attack the low-lying fruit. They love to point the finger at that one backyard breeder and trying to paint us all with the same color. Now, right. Did you know this, Lee? Because I just dropped a short here not so long ago. Did you know that the ASPCA president is making over $100,000 a year?
Oh, I believe he's weighing way more than that.
Did you know
more than $500,000 a year?
Yeah, but you want to really crack up? Did you know the ASPCA actually sells pet insurance for cats, dogs, and horses, which happens to be the three breeds that they mostly rescue? Did you know this?
There you go.
Well, think about it. I'm going to rescue a dog or a cat or a horse, right? I'm gonna sell you on adopt, don't shop. You're now bringing home a dog that you don't know what type of health issues it may or may not have home to your 5-year-old kid. You don't know, the kid may be playing with a dog and somebody decided to get ice from the fridge and the dog bit the kid. Well, you don't know the history behind the dog. The dog might have gotten beaten every time somebody pressed the ice making button on the fridge. Who knows? My whole point is sometimes we get wrapped up on standing up for something that we don't research anything. We just want to be on there so we can point and wag the finger at somebody.
That's so true.
You got to research it a little bit more, man. You got to research a little bit more because that dude you're out here representing and that whole movement, dude's making 6 figures. And he's selling insurance to the poor old ladies that are empty nesters that were sold on Adopt Don't Shop. Now, I'm a dog lover. I've rescued 4 dogs. My followers know this. I'm about dogs first, but not every rescue is made to be adopted, man. You may be walking into a messed up situation.
Well, also, even though adopting dogs,
look at that screen I just sent you, and then go ahead.
Even though adopting dogs isn't free,
I put it up the other day. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mike. I put this up exactly the other day, coincidentally.
Yeah,
525,000.
It's actually more than that. Go ahead, Mike.
No, you're all right. Even though adopting dogs isn't free, it's still what you are getting is a cheaper dog than say a purebred dog. And the problem that we've seen, Raul and I have talked about this, and Lee, you can tell me what you think. If somebody pays good money for a dog, they're a lot more likely to take care of it.
Yes,
and they want to know what they're going to get
than just a mutt. And there's nothing wrong with a mutt, and there's nothing wrong with a purebred stray dog or whatever. But if you pay good money for a dog, it's an investment, and you're going to take care of it. If it's just something that wandered up and now you decided to feed it, you may not ever get it shots. You may not ever do any. But if you paid several $1,000s for a dog, you're going to make sure, like, oh, my dog was going to. The vet's like, hey, man, like, your dog's fine. You're being a little over precautious.
Well, ASPCA will tell us to be responsible breeders and to manage our customers when they have problems or concerns. But you get a dog from the ASPCA and that dog gets cancer and you need to treat it. You go back to the ASPCA and ask them if they're going to cover it. They're going to say no. No, they're not going to cover it.
That's why they sold it to you in the first place.
Right.
And they're going to sell you pet insurance while you're at it.
Right.
So this guy could get his
good
6 figures.
A good breeder is going to not necessarily pay your vet bills because I don't have any control over that, but we will offer a replacement. We will take the dog back. We will euthanize the animal if we need to. But you're going to have to pay the shipping on the animal to send it back to me. Now, fortunately for me, I've never had a dog with a health problem that needed to be euthanized and sent back to me for that behavior. But if a person wants to, let's say, I can't do it, Lee, I need you to do it for me. Fine, we'll do it for you. You just send the animal back and we'll take care of it. The other thing is when you buy a dog from a responsible breeder, you can look at the pedigree and look at the traits and the ancestry and see if these dogs have disease. A good breeder is going to eliminate those diseases. You get a dog from the ASPCA, it was dropped off by somebody that didn't care, and they just said, let it be your problem. And the ASP is going to give that, ASPCA is going to give that dog to you and say, let it be your problem. They're passing the buck.
Yeah,
and you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to get.
And conveniently sell insurance to you, pet insurance, while they're at it. Not to mention the fact, and Subweso just brought it up, and I've seen more and more of this, where it says, did you know that the ASPCA imports half of their animals from other countries? Then claim the U.S. has the worst stray issue while ignoring local rescues and shelters who need big help from companies. Think about this. I would have never believed this until you tell me that the ASPCA also sells pet insurance. Now it makes perfect sense.
Well, I can even add to it from personal experience. Well, I know a dog transporter. I know them personally, met them many times. They pick up strays in our area and they drive them up to New York. And the ASPCA and Humane Societies up in New York and Pennsylvania and Massachusetts, where the populations are very dense, but especially in New York, is literally buying the strays here. I don't know what they're paying for the strays. It may be nothing, but they're paying for the transport. That person's not driving for free.
Right.
They're getting paid. But I don't know what they're paying per dog. So the transporter also runs a rescue. So they may be paying that person for the transport and the dog, or maybe just the transport. I don't know, but they're coming out of pocket.
It's a business.
Enough that she actually bought a van, filled it up with crates, and she goes every 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's a business. It's a business. Somebody figured it out, and now they're taking advantage of it. Listen, Lee, we've come to the end of the live. Let me first and foremost say how refreshing it is to bring somebody on here that knows quite a bit as to breeding, genetics, biology, you name it. I really want to thank you for coming on, and hopefully we can make this a more common thing. Yourself, Mr. Alex Van Gonta House, and even my guy, Joe Church. Hopefully I could bring us all and we could continue having more of these conversations. Let me bring my guy from the back, Hollywood. So Lee, the way we do it here is we have basically, we're going to sound off. So just follow suit. We're going to start out with Hollywood. We're going to go then to Mike, then to yourself. I'm going to shoot it out. Once we close out, don't leave. I want to talk to you backstage and we'll make it happen. But for now, we're going to start it out. Hollywood, you're muted, bro. So unmute for yourself.
Yeah, I know.
And make it happen, bro.
It's your boy Hollywood Holland, your boy in the back of the queue, and we're catching you on the next one.
Michael Higginson.
It's Michael Higginson, man, from Creek Bank Kennel. Knowledge is power, baby, man. Y'all stay humble. Seeing y'all on the next one.
There you go, Mr. Lee,
American
Sentinel. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for having us on here. It's my pleasure to be here. And to all the viewers, thank you for tuning in. I stay in this because I believe God called me to do it. If you don't know him, get to know him. Y'all take care.
Hey, you already know. We do this every Monday at 7 p.m. CST. We also go live on Fridays. Today, we had an amazing guest, amazing show, amazing live. It's been Robert from the Q. Be catching you on the next one.
Here we go. Kill the whistle. We are going for a whole hour. Straight dog talk and the song. Jump on in and speculate. Show up on time, don't be weak and late. We are community, so don't hate. And learn to cooperate.